Let me tell you something about the holidays in my neighborhood. They used to be magical. I live in a quiet little cul-de-sac where everyone pretty much minds their business. But come December? My house would come alive. We're talking lights everywhere. The roofline? Outlined in glowing icicles. The bushes? Lit up like gumdrops. I even had a mechanical reindeer on the lawn that nodded its head every few seconds. Kids loved it. Adults slowed down to take pictures. It was my thing. But this past Christmas? Well, let's just say things didn't go quite the way I planned. It all started with a letter. A bland beige envelope showed up in my mailbox one chilly morning. No return address, just my name and a neatly typed label. I opened it without thinking, probably a coupon or some junk. But no. It was from the HOA. Of course. The letter was cold, formal, and to the point. Dear resident, due to increasing concerns about traffic congestion, energy consumption, and neighborhood consistency, the board has decided to ban all outdoor holiday light displays effective immediately. Failure to comply will result in fines of $150 per day. I stared at it for a full minute. No lights? No decorations? No joy? I actually laughed. Surely this was a mistake. A prank, even. But nope. The next day, I saw the same envelope sticking out of my neighbor Janet's mailbox. Then Greg got one. Then Old Man Harold across the street. They weren't joking. And the worst part? No one else seemed that upset. Greg just shrugged and said, "Guess it's less work this year." Janet called it a chance to simplify. Harold didn't say anything. He just went back to raking invisible leaves like he always does. But me? I was furious. This wasn't just about some twinkle lights. This was tradition. This was joy. This was my way of bringing something special to the street. I wasn't hurting anyone. If anything, I was helping. Every year, people dropped by with their kids to see the lights, snap photos, and sip cocoa from the little stand I set up. So I did what any reasonable, grown adult would do when told they couldn't put up holiday lights. I bought more. Not to put up, not yet, I'm not that reckless. But I needed to think. I sat down at my computer, scrolling through pages of reviews for laser projectors, synchronized light systems, inflatable snowmen 6 feet tall. My cart filled up like a sleigh with no brakes. Then I made a plan. Not revenge exactly. Let's call it redirection. Because if I couldn't decorate outside, I'd bring the holiday spirit to a place the HOA couldn't touch. That's when the idea struck me like a rogue icicle to the brain. What if I turned my garage into a walk-through Christmas village? Think about it, 4 walls, a roof, totally enclosed. Not technically. Outside. I even checked the HOA's exact wording. They banned external displays. Nothing about garage interiors. Nothing about open doors. Nothing about music synced with candy cane lights lining the ceiling. It was perfect. So I got to work. Over the next week, my garage became a winter wonderland. I put up shimmering snowflake lights, built tiny storefront facades from foam board. There was a candy shop, a toy store, even a fake post office for kids to drop letters to Santa. I layered fake snow along the floor, added a scent diffuser pumping out peppermint, and mounted a TV screen looping a crackling fireplace. And the crown jewel? A Santa chair right in the middle. I'd be sitting there every weekend in full costume, handing out candy canes and asking kids what they wanted for Christmas. I even borrowed a friend's DSLR to take official photos for free. Now I know what you're thinking, how did I fund this? Let's just say the money I'd saved on not inflating my electric bill outside found a new purpose. But I didn't stop there. I created a Facebook event. I posted a few teaser photos in local community groups, just enough to pique curiosity. Holiday Spirit Lives On, I called it. A cozy Christmas experience. Family friendly. Free. Within 48 hours, I had over 200 RSVPs. By the end of the week, local news picked it up. That Friday night, I threw open my garage door at exactly 6 p.m. And the crowd came. Families. Couples. Teenagers looking for Instagram shots. Even a few dogs in sweaters. The line curled around the block. My neighbor Janet came by and actually teared up when she saw the tiny post office setup. "This feels like the North Pole," she whispered. It felt good. Really good. Until I spotted him. Walter. The HOA president. Standing at the edge of my driveway in his stiff windbreaker and his permanent frown. He was staring at the crowd, arms crossed, jaw tight. The guy looked like someone had slapped the hot cocoa out of his hand, assuming he'd ever held a cup of joy in his life. Our eyes met. He didn't say anything that night. But I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I woke up to two things. First, a sore back from sitting in the Santa chair all night, and second, an email from the HOA. Subject line: Notice of violation, unauthorized holiday activity. I nearly spit out my peppermint tea. The email was long. Too long. Full of phrases like intent to circumvent community guidelines, creating unauthorized public gatherings, and my personal favorite, weaponizing the holiday spirit in a disruptive manner. Weaponizing? I wasn't running a black market toy factory. I was handing out candy canes and spreading joy. But Walter, oh Walter, he wasn't having it. An emergency HOA meeting was scheduled that Sunday, and I was strongly encouraged to attend. Now, if you've never been to an HOA meeting, let me paint the picture. A dozen folding chairs, one squeaky microphone, and enough passive aggressiveness to melt a snowman. Walter stood at the front like he was testifying in front of Congress. He cleared his throat and said, "We are gathered here to address a matter of escalating concern." Escalating? Really? He clicked a remote, and suddenly, my Facebook event was on the projector screen. That's right. They had receipts. He pointed at it like it was a wanted poster. "This holiday attraction has caused traffic buildup, noise complaints, and safety concerns. It violates the spirit of our community guidelines." I raised my hand. Walter sighed. "Yes, Mr. Brooks." I stood up. "With all due respect, Walter, the spirit of the community is supposed to be about, well, community. Families came. Kids smiled. Nobody got hurt. And let me remind you, nothing in the bylaws bans garage-based holiday setups." Murmurs from the audience. A few heads nodded. Janet even clapped once before catching herself. Walter's eye twitched. "That may be technically true," he said, "but the volume of traffic and the publicity involved have brought unwanted attention to our neighborhood." I couldn't help myself. "Oh no, not holiday cheer." More murmurs. A suppressed chuckle from Greg. Walter wasn't amused. "You are mocking this board." "No, I'm mocking you," I said. "Because instead of banning things people love, maybe try being part of the celebration." His face went full beet red. Meeting adjourned. Just like that. But the next day, the real drama began. It started with signs. Bright orange staked into several yards, including mine. "Warning, unauthorized event. Visitors will be reported." They looked official, but they weren't. Walter had printed them himself. Real low-budget horror movie vibes. So I did what any holiday-loving homeowner would do. I doubled down. More lights. More inflatables. More fake snow pumped out from machines I borrowed from a friend who works in film production. And the best part? A radio transmitter. I set up a short-range FM station so that when visitors pulled up, they could tune in and hear synchronized music timed to the lights and scenes in my garage. "Welcome to Brooks' North Pole," the radio voice said. "Drive slow, sip your cocoa, and don't mind the orange signs, they're part of the act." Walter lost his mind. He went door to door telling neighbors not to participate. Threatened fines. Left typed notes taped to garage doors. And you know what? It backfired spectacularly. Because the more he complained, the more people showed up. Curiosity is a powerful thing. By the end of the week, I was on the front page of the local paper. One man's garage brings joy to the suburbs. They even interviewed me. I wore my Santa hat. Walter, of course, wrote a letter to the editor calling the article Biased Propaganda and My Garage an illegal amusement park. I couldn't help but smile. It was working. We were working. The people were choosing joy over pettiness. Kids were laughing. Families were bonding. But then came the drone. Literally. One night, I noticed a little blinking light buzzing over my roof. I thought it was just another tech-savvy visitor filming the lights, until it hovered, then dipped toward my backyard, then zipped back up and away. The next morning? Another letter. Evidence has been collected indicating unauthorized structural modifications to your garage. Further non-compliance may result in legal action. Walter had a drone. I was living in a full-blown HOA surveillance state. But if Walter thought that would stop me? He didn't know what I had planned for Christmas Eve. The sun dipped behind the trees, and Christmas Eve arrived like a drumroll. By 4 p.m., a line of cars was already forming down the block. Kids with cocoa-filled thermoses leaned out of minivan windows. Parents stood bundled on lawns, craning their necks. One guy even brought a folding chair and a thermos labeled eggnog, definitely not spiked. Inside my garage, it was go time. The animatronic elves were dancing in sync. The model train zipped around a glowing North Pole centerpiece. Mrs. Claus handed out cookies while Santa, yours truly, rehearsed his ho 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 in the mirror. And then, the music started. The lights twinkled in perfect time with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, bursting in waves of color across the house, the roof, and every inflatable on the lawn. Snow machines kicked in, and the whole street looked like it had been yanked out of a Hallmark movie. People cheered. But not everyone. At 6:12 p.m., right on schedule, Walter reappeared. This time, he wasn't alone. He stood at the head of the cul-de-sac, arms crossed, flanked by two equally grumpy-looking HOA board members wearing reflective vests like they were traffic cops at a parade. One of them carried a clipboard. The other had a megaphone. Walter raised his hand, like Moses parting the crowd. The music cut. The lights paused. Everyone went quiet. Then the clipboard lady shouted into the megaphone. This display violates subsection 14B of the HOA seasonal decoration policy. You are instructed to shut this down immediately. Someone in the crowd booed. Another yelled, It's Christmas Eve, you sociopath! Walter looked stunned. Clipboard lady hesitated. Then a tiny voice rang out near the front of the crowd. A little girl in a puffy pink coat whispered, But I wanted to see Santa. I don't care who you are. That'll hit you right in the jingle bells. The crowd shifted. Eyes turned toward Walter, then toward me, then back to Walter. He cleared his throat. This isn't personal. It's about rules. I stepped forward, Santa hat crooked, beard slightly askew. Walter, I said, maybe for once, the rules aren't what matter. Maybe what matters is what this means to everyone out here. I motioned to the kids. The families. The cocoa drinkers and folding chair sitters. Do you really want to be the guy who shut down Christmas? He opened his mouth to respond, but then something amazing happened. Janet, the quiet neighbor who always refused to pick a side, stepped forward holding a tray of brownies. I brought these for the volunteers, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. And for the record, I like the lights. People started clapping. Greg followed, then Nancy from down the block, then even George, the 80-year-old who hadn't liked anything since color television was invented. It was a full-blown mutiny. Walter looked like he had eaten a candy cane dipped in motor oil. Clipboard lady lowered her megaphone. Maybe, she muttered, we could just revisit the policy in the new year? Walter was turning red again. I could see the veins pulsing near his temples. Then Brad, the teenager who once ding-dong ditched my house 3 Halloweens in a row, walked up to me and said, Dude, this is actually really sick. Can I take a selfie with Santa? And that sealed it. The music kicked back in. The lights returned in full force. Walter stood frozen for a few more seconds, then turned around, mumbling something about calling a special session, and disappeared into the dark, his clipboard posse trailing behind him like disappointed mall cops. But the night? Oh, the night was magical. The snow machines didn't stop. Kids laughed. Couples danced. I took over 300 selfies. Even Janet's brownies got devoured in minutes. The radio broadcast played holiday messages from neighbors and local businesses. One local radio station even picked up the feed and gave us a shout-out. It wasn't just a display anymore. It was a movement. One fueled by lights, laughter, and just the right amount of rebellion. But even as the final car pulled away and the last candy cane was handed out, I knew Walter wasn't done. He was going to come back swinging. And I had one last surprise waiting just for him. Christmas morning was crisp, still, and oddly peaceful. My front lawn looked like the aftermath of a snow globe explosion: glitter, foam snow, candy cane wrappers, and one deflated Rudolph slumped over like he'd partied a little too hard. But I was smiling. Because I knew what was coming. You see, while Walter was busy chasing me with HOA policies and clipboard threats, I had been doing some paperwork of my own. A few weeks back, when things first got heated, I applied for something called a temporary community event permit through the city. Filed it, paid the fee, even looped in the local tourism board. They loved the idea. Called it a community morale booster. And guess what? It meant I was officially hosting a city-sanctioned public event. Which meant the HOA had no authority over it. None. Zero. Zilch. And when the local news station caught wind of the whole thing, the neighborhood feud, the decorations, the crowd, the FBI-level pettiness from Walter, they sent a camera crew. At 10 a.m., my story was broadcast live. There I was, standing in my snow-covered yard, holding a cup of coffee and smiling like a guy who just won a passive-aggressive war without firing a single shot. The headline? Holiday hero turns HOA hate into Christmas cheer. Within hours, the video was everywhere. TikTok, YouTube, local Facebook groups. My house was now listed as a local drive-by attraction on Google Maps. Yelp reviews started popping up. One read: Best holiday light show since Clark Griswold. HOA tried to kill Christmas. Dude fought back. 10 out of 10. Even better? That city permit I applied for? I made it recurring. Meaning next year, and every year after, this event was going to be official. And guess who couldn't stop me? Walter. Now, speaking of Walter. A few days after Christmas, I spotted him in his yard, muttering under his breath as he wrestled a half-lit plastic angel off his lawn. He glanced at me, then quickly looked away. I waved. He did not wave back. But the best part. A few board members, tired of the drama and public embarrassment, called for a vote. And guess what? Walter was voted out as HOA president. Janet, Brownie Queen, rebel icon, was elected in his place. Her first act? Repeal the outdated decoration clause. Her second? Start a planning committee for next year's neighborhood-wide holiday celebration. Yeah. That happened. In just 1 month, we went from silent nights to full-blown festival status. And it all started because I refused to take down a few lights. Looking back, I realize it was never just about decorations. It was about standing up to joy killers. About drawing the line when bureaucracy tries to snuff out wonder. About showing people it's okay to fight for fun, especially when it brings a community together. Now every year, people from all over the city come to see our street. Kids drop letters to Santa in the glowing mailbox I built. Neighbors swap cocoa recipes. We even have food trucks some nights. As for me, I still wear the Santa suit. Still fire up the snow machines. Still blast holiday music that can probably be heard from space. And every time I flip the switch and the lights come to life, I think about Walter's face that first night, jaws clenched, clipboard trembling. That's the look of a man who lost a battle. to Christmas. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way.